So we do have an amazing panel, and with some of the very best slot designers in the world. So I will turn it over to them to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into what we hope will be a fascinating topic for all of you.
So my name is Aoki. I've been designing slot machines for real-world gambling for 16 years. I started with a couple third-party companies. I worked at Konami in 2001 to 2002, and then I went to WMS Gaming from 2002 to beginning of 2014.
Hi, my name is Joshi. I've been in the industry for about 22 years, real money side. I started with WMS Gaming first, spent nearly 20 years there, and then last 2 years I have my own company, 2x2 Gaming, and we are active in real money gaming as well as for both land-based as well as online, and now entering into social casinos.
Hi, I'm Monty. I'm the co-founder and chief product officer of Play Studios. We have a product called My Vegas. Before then, I've done real money and mobile and casual casino for 16 years.
I'm Larry DeMar, president of Leading Edge Design. First 20 years of my career, we got some fans out there.
Employees.
Thank you. We'll arrange for the payment on the side at the end of the lecture. For the first 20 years of my career, I developed coin-operated video games and pinball machines, mostly at Williams Electronics. Went into slot design for land-based casinos at Williams before starting Leading Edge Design about 15 years ago. We've been making slot machines for casinos and the Norway Lottery for 15 years. Co-founded Spooky Cool Labs, which is now a part of Zynga, where we made the Wizard of Oz social game, and they now do the Hit It Rich casino product. And can't forget this. We are working with 2x2 with Shri and with Michael Carpenter's Ruby 7. We are in the process of creating a new social casino for Facebook and mobile.
Well, plugs at the end.
Great, I get 2 shots.
So just so that we all get on the same page language-wise, if we could just define the typical types of slot machines, whether it's gambler, entertainment, hybrid. Dion, can you maybe give a little bit of insight in how we refer to these?
Yeah, so there's several different types of players on the casino floor, and there's several different categories. To keep it kind of basic, we like to categorize them for entertainment players, the players who look for more interactive entertainment experience. The true gambler players, the players looking for either the old school 3-reel or the more pure 5-reel video that you'd see from like Aristocrat or Konami. And then what we call hybrid, some people use that term, some people don't, or participation product, that kind of larger than life product that somehow combines the two categories. You have these games that have licenses that have a gambling hook and they appeal to a much broader base, but they also carry the entertainment type stuff along with it.
And also if you can define volatility.
So volatility, it's kind of tough to describe easily. So I think a good way to look at volatility would be how quickly the median experience merges with the mean experience, which means that does the average player get the average experience, or does the average player get beat up and a very few number of players get that really good experience? And so the higher volatility, the more brutal it is to the median player, but the long tail players really get to see that money come back.
We always like to use the roller coaster analogy, where a low volatility game is one that the little kids would go on, and the high volatility is the big peaks and valleys, spills and thrills.
So obviously Larry got more dates when he was younger. So is there a typical balance by type of machine on a Vegas casino floor? Shri, you wanna?
As I said, as Dion said and Larry kind of said, there are lots of different types of things. So casinos like to have a good mix of all types of products. They want to have, the entertainment type of product. They also want to have hybrid products and as well as gambler products. typically, the way it would work is, in terms of the hybrid or the larger than life products, because they usually have a different financial arrangement than a for sale product. The casinos typically buy those machines, which are the regular machines, and then hybrids or the larger than life products, they usually are revenue share arrangement. So the casinos try to limit the placement of those products. And so on a typical casino floor, you may find roughly about 10% of the floor product might be the hybrid or the larger than life product. And then it used to be when everything was mechanical, the gambler products were a lot more, and then the entertainment products were a lot less. As the video came along, the product kind of kept on changing, and now you will see is probably a slightly 60-40 mix of gambler versus entertainment type product.
So within a real casino, they make a serious effort to create a variety of experiences for a variety of players.
Absolutely. In fact, the casinos basically define as their players, whether they are local players or they're tourist players, which is what they will say, people who are coming them regularly, which will, frequenting them on a regular basis, and then people who come occasionally. General, belief is that, the people who come frequently tend to prefer more volatile product, and the people who come, occasionally prefer entertainment product. However, casinos want to broaden their, player base as much as possible, and so they always strive hard to keep a mix, and they're constantly adjusting based on the player.
So Monty, within a social casino, should there be a balance of these types of machines, and do you think most social casinos even think about this?
There should be a balance of those types of machines. Again, the way we think about it is that we look at things like hit frequency, payout, and volatility, and then we also consider the amount of the payout that's attributed to a bonus game. And we use those variables to come up with a bunch of different styles of game, because every player is different. I mean, like Larry said, it's like some people prefer the kiddie ride and some people prefer the high volatility ride. So you don't see it in social casinos as much as you should, but that should be very apparent. There should be a strong mix in the navigation through the game, so players can quickly find the game that they like that meets their play style.
Okay, so let's dive into slot machine design itself. So Larry, can you walk us through your thought process when designing a slot machine?
When you approach the design of a slot machine, there are two really main categories that you start with, and one is the theme, and one would be the math. And then there are other considerations. We built many of our slot machines around licenses, and so picking and procuring a license, getting the rights, and that becomes a whole different process, because and it's a double-edged sword. When you license with a theme, you get all this rich content that people recognize and that's part of the theme. And the other side of that is you get all this rich content that sometimes doesn't always weave into or make a really good game. And then you try and look at the second steps of the math model. Do we want high or low volatility? Are we going to have more gambling features like free spins? We're going to put bonus games in. And part of it is, what kind of player were you going? To expand on what Sri was talking about, the different types, in 2 days of Casual Connect here, I wish I had $1 every time somebody said segmentation, and looking at segmentation. And there's not just segmentation on the slot floor, but in the real casinos, there are different kinds. There are different kinds of casinos. There are your strip casinos. There's your local casinos. Some are going after tourists. Some are going after the local player. Local players go for much higher value. So at the local casinos, you see just vast amounts of video poker. And the strip people are there once and not there another time, and they often cater to the big attractions, and big licenses, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, things like that. So it's a matter of marrying all the ingredients, picking, are we doing licensed, are we doing a free spin or a bonus, what's our volatility, and so on.
Okay. And Dion, can you kind of answer that same question, and can you also kind of go into, potentially some detail around the, symbol choices and ordering on reels and those types of things?
So yeah, I tend to start at a slightly different place. I look at the product category, the product lineup, and see what's lacking and see where the opportunities are on the floor and where the players are shifting. And then, based on that information, what I do is I try to pick out, the types of experience that type of player, the growing type of player, the underserved player would kind of appreciate more. And then, based on that, you start to hone in, okay, this is this type of player, they like this type of game, so they like this type of theme. And then, there's certain expectations out of every single game, out of every single player. So if you have a gambler player, they want a more serious experience, they want a more serious theme, and they might care less about hit rate, care more about win rate. And when you start digging into the features that work for them, you try to sculpt an experience specific for that player. And it gets down to distribution of reel strips, it gets down to hit rate, win rate, it gets down to EV distribution, where is the money, how much money is over 5 times bet, how much money is over 10 times bet. And all these kind of variables come together, and you try to sculpt the best experience to kind of drive the player that you're looking for. It's interesting. Most people don't think about this, but you can actually change a short-term experience just by changing how the lines are laid out, or how the symbols are laid out, or where the clumps are, whether or not you choose clumps, or if the lines are, go all over the place, or if they're consolidated into a small space. So all those things come into consideration, and they're specific for each type of player.
Go ahead, Sri.
Just one quick thing. The analogy we kind of like to use is, if you are comparing designing a slot machine to a movie, the math of the game is kind of your screenplay. And that's what is going to be, giving you the experience stuff. And the important part, what you have to communicate is, what is the genre of the movie and what the characters are, and does that go with the screenplay of the movie? So example, if you are going to make a James Bond movie, well, you can't have a romantic tearjerker storyline. And on the flip side, if you are going to create a strong female-oriented storyline, there is not going to be a lot of explosions in it. And the same way, the math and the symbols and the storyline of the game has to work accordingly. And the great part is what happens with is the mathematics of the game and the randomness of the nature. It's kind of dictates it brings the unpredictability in the experience, which is what you want in your twists and turns in the storyline. And so you kind of have to think from that perspective as to what experience you want to create, and do all the ingredients that you are using for design support that experience.
So do most slot designers work in concert with a mathematician? How does that process really work?
I would say almost all good slot designers I know work with concert with a mathematician. I fundamentally, at least in real money space, I've really not seen any successful slot machine that has not come out of a good working together of the designer as well as the mathematician. And the reason for that is, as kind of for the explanation I was giving, if you have a bad screenplay, the movie is usually not going to be well liked. On the other flip side is, if you have good screenplay, but you don't have good actors or good presentation, and a director who can put it all together, then it's probably not going to be an enjoyable experience.
And Monty, you're right there with me on the social side. How are you thinking?
I'm trying to find common ground here in some ways. We do things a lot differently. Like we have two distinct groups in our company. We have the business side, the product managers who represent what the market's out there, what our competitors are doing, what our players want, what the data is telling us, and we have a creative side that's constantly coming up with things that they want to bring, that they want to create and bring to the market. Whether or not they think the players are like it or not, it's because the passion brings them down that road. And then we have this what we call these design charrettes, and we get together and we kind of, it's almost like an arena battle where we say, this is what the market needs. Well, I don't want to build that, and we go through this creative process of matching the creative vision for the products that we want to build with the business needs and what the players are telling us that they want and what our competitors are having clear success with. So, and then at the end of this, we may end up with, it feels as far from a screenplay as I can imagine. In some ways, it feels like we come up with we find a theme that matches the volatility or the design features. If we want to have oversized symbols or we want to have a free spin bonus, then we find the creative product that matches the game we want to build, and then the team comes together to try to build that. So it feels like for us it's certainly a much more painful birthing process than for some of my peers up here.
And Larry, in the real money world, is data as much a factor? Because the one beautiful thing in the social side is we actually have too much data. And like we sometimes get caught up in trying to just parse through it and figure out really what are those predictive measures versus just what was accidental, what's connected, what's not. How does it work in the real money side as well?
The data is a lot harder to get, and it's been a real frustration on the real money side. Our company started out doing really, really out of the box stuff. We had a video game background, and saw that everybody was doing video slots. They were putting the same reels on the video screen that was replacing the mechanical reels in a mechanical slot. And so we came up with, our first game was based on the game of checkers, and you saw a checkerboard and tried to jump as many checkers as you could. And being so unique and different, it was really important to us to try to see what was the player experience, how many people were doing what, and even how skillfully they were playing it. And we worked with IGT, who produced this game for us, and we really had to jump through a lot of hoops to get a very small amount of data. And the world of having the data online, coming in is just, that is so refreshing compared to the struggles we've had in casino world.
And in terms of, we've kind of talked a lot about the types of slot machines. One of the things that was really interesting for me when I, kind of started getting into this was trying to understand which slot machines actually, make money for casinos. And it seems as if gambler-type machines that are simpler machines make more money than entertainment machines. And, Dion, can you just explain that concept and whether or not you think that holds true for social as well?
I'm actually curious to see if it holds true for social as well. I think what it is that the gambler-style games can have the ability to appeal to a much broader base of players. You'll see like a game like an Aristocrat Buffalo where everyone wants to play it, everyone plays it, regardless of how they consider themselves a player. But then you have the other end of the spectrum, like Monopoly games. There's a huge fan base of Monopoly games, but you won't get the gamblers to sit there for hours and hours and hours and max bet on it. So I think for land-based specifically, these gambler games are kind of pure experiences. You shut your brain off, you put in your money, you sit there and you bang away, and you kind of lose focus on everything. And I assume that and I might be completely wrong here. I assume that the motivators might the motivators might be the same in the social mobile space, but I think the behaviors and the amount of time they play, and and how often they play change. So whether or not these pure gambler games will work in this space, I am curious to see. But I also think that the entertainment games are great for this space because you can open up, you can play them for 5 minutes, you can put them away, and you can keep doing that over and over again. So I think for me, time will tell.
The one thing what I would say, it's kind of building on the data is a great friend in the social part, which in the real money side that's pretty hard. But there is also a separate type of thing in the real money space, and in the difference where Monty and I were talking about is in the real money space, you don't have the opportunity to keep modifying the game on a regular basis. You design a game once and you go through regulators, and when you put it out, that's what it is. And so therefore the tendency is to try to perfect it and do as much research as upfront as possible and do the best possible experience. Whereas in social, because you have this flexibility and the opportunity to keep modifying the game without having the impact, with the regulatory stuff or any of the delay, is kind of goes as to what Monty is saying, where you can have a different creative process. The one thing what I would say though is looking at the evidence of which are the top successful products, right? So if you look at things like Double Down Casino or Jackpot Party or the High Five Casino, the people who have done real money games and brought their stuff onto the social space and the amount of ARPDAU they are able to generate and the amount of money they are able to generate, I think it kind of points to that a carefully thought out product that actually has been designed with all that stuff in there seems to be a place for it. That doesn't necessarily mean that is the only space. I mean, of course, there are so many other successful products out there. But I think there is definitely, to answer your question, I think there seems to be a room for a product that is carefully designed and is thought out and is targeted for specific type of gambler will become successful in the market space.
We do have pretty good evidence that what works in the casino works in social casino, and so that's not the only thing that works, but in general, if it works in the casino, it does pretty well in social casino.
So one thing that just got loud, huh? One thing that it seems to me is very, very different is the amount of time that people are playing these games. And I would think that designing a slot machine, that, whether or not somebody is playing for 3.5 hours or somebody is playing for, 10 to 30 minutes, that would be a fundamentally different experience. Monty, are you seeing, when you're doing games specifically for social, is that a fundamental difference, and does that really lead your thinking?
I'm quickly coming to the conclusion that I'm that guy on the panel, that guy that's the contrarian or the argumentative guy on the panel.
Not on the panel. This is just life
life
in general.
So to answer your previous question, I don't really feel like if you look at the distribution of our games, and we have games that are for gamblers, and we have games that are for that tell a bigger story, that have more involved bonus games, and we see a pretty even distribution of play throughout all of them. Again, if you give the interesting thing about social casino is that people keep coming back. They come back day after day and week after week, and they invest hundreds of hours in these games, and they find the game that they like. And whether I know the math of all of our games. I know which games have what payouts, and there are games I avoid in my own product because I feel like they're unlucky, right? Even though I know they're not unlucky, it's just in my experience they're unlucky. So I gravitate to the games that I like, and that's what I play. And all social casinos are an infatuation game. We monetize most of our players in the first 14 days. If the goal is to get them into the game as fast as we can, as far as we can, so that we can get them to that infatuation experience. And they'll find the games they want. I almost feel like the game is irrelevant to revenue. It's the entire environment. It's the economy. It's the events. It's promotions. It's the way we do customer service and VIP management. And it's the whole business that makes people want to be engaged and involved. It's the investment in levels and locking and progression that really makes people pay. Now, the games are incredibly important. It's the content that people are consuming. It's what they fall in love with, but it's not the thing that really makes the money. It's everything else around it that makes the money.
So that is the secret behind Big Fish's success?
There's two things you can do. You can claw your way over 1,400 other companies to get in the top 10 in an extremely painful process by doing everything right, or you can be first, right? First is incredibly important. I tell my product managers and the companies I advise that find an emerging market, get there with Texas Hold'em, get there with slot machines, and own that emerging market, because first is so much more important than good.
So other than your own game, what's your favorite social casino out there?
I'm one of those guys who I try to play everything, but it's hard to play everything. And our product management team breaks up, and somebody plays Big Fish and somebody plays Slotomania. If I have to play a game that's a competitive game, I really like Hit It Rich's Elvira game. Again, I like free spins. I like the oversized symbols. That appeals to me. But as far as the games I find myself gravitating back to as an app, it's the games I have the highest levels in, the games I've unlocked the most games in, the games that I've got the highest VIP status in. Those games draw me back because I have an investment. I've gone to I have a relationship with that product, even if that product, no offense, Playtika, is terrible. I come back to it because I have a, I have an investment in it.
And Larry, a favorite game?
Mostly on Double Down. We have a lot of IGT DNA for the last 15 years, so I'm really comfortable, with the classic games.
It's all relationships. So slots tend to be a more individual experience. And so I think since what we're talking about is social casino and what Monty is alluding to is everything around the game, in terms of the social mechanics of what you're seeing trending now, or what you're seeing from actually historically the floor of real money casinos, what are those social elements that you think are really going to come out into the social space and that are going to differentiate products in the future? And Dion, why don't you start?
I actually have some pretty decent experience designing social games for the casino floor. I've done, working for WMS, I did 4 of the banked big event games. I did some Portal meta games. So I think the idea that everyone, can win together and come together for a common goal, I think that's a very, very powerful thing. It was very, very powerful on the casino floor. And I think, seeing how other people win, seeing, what the steps that they took to get there to win, winning together, competing over something. I think those are very, very powerful motivators in the space. I also really enjoy playing, the slot tournaments in casinos, the ones where, if you're at a certain status, they send you an invitation, you go into the casino and you just bang away at this machine mindlessly, and whoever ends up first ends up first. And I think that mixed with progressives, I think there's a lot of things to pull from in the casino floor that say, this is how players win together, this is how they compete with each other, that I think really will work well in the space. To me, the hardest part is trying to get the social part into it, that you can't turn over your shoulder and see the person when you can't high-five that person, or you can't, click your drink against theirs. So to me, that's a huge challenge, but I also think it's a great opportunity, because people do like winning, they like seeing other people win, and they like winning together.
Can you just explain the banked big event experience?
Big Event is a WMS product, and what it was is that you would play at a certain rate and you'd get eligibility, and there would be this large sign above the bank, and the bank would be 4 machines, 8 machines, and then when that bonus triggered from the big sign, everyone would get into the bonus. And the bonuses differed. You had competitive bonuses where people were fighting for the largest jackpot. You had like community type bonuses where everyone was going for the same things. You had free spin bonuses where everyone got their own free spins, and they were modified by other things. But the whole crux of it was that when the bonus triggered, everyone who was on the bank got in, and everyone got a chance to win something. Some players won more than others. Sometimes they competed, which was always kind of fun. But the whole thing was based on when someone wins, everyone wins.
I'm actually kind of going to come over to Monty's side here a little bit, but so I don't want to feel him alone. But no, actually, the one big thing what I would say is this, right? The casino, the real money casino industry, especially the design side, right, has been a very small select group of people who've been doing it. There are only a handful of companies who've been doing real money casino design for a long period of time. There are maybe 8 or 10 companies, and you look at social, you probably have 1,000 companies who are doing it. And you got a lot more creative people, a lot younger than us. I mean, look at us, here, who are coming in there with new ideas. And so I fully expect that they are going to come up with some new experience, some new ideas that the real money people have not done it, right? And so it's not necessarily going to be what has worked in the real money that's coming in there. There's going to be some new experience, some new social thing, or some new idea that they are going to come in there. The only one thing what I would caution though is when you are looking at in terms of these new experiences and stuff is what is the longevity of the product? Now, if the goal basically is you are trying to build something for a couple years and then you basically want to sell it off to Pletica, the guy yesterday was very eager to buy new companies. So, then obviously, all you really want to do is something quickly, just monetize as much as you can, get your higher ARPDAO and then build it, right? But on the flip side, if you are trying to build a product that people will play years after years, like the examples what Larry was talking about, a Wheel of Fortune, it's been on the casino floor after 20 years, and then people have spent billions, not millions, playing the game, right? Then it's a much different experience. Then you are not necessarily trying to say, how can I go and keep buying new users every day and getting new people to come and play that? Is basically the people who are there, how do you get them invested in the game and not so much monetize, but they basically are there because they like it and they're going to stay with your product 5 years from now. And so the question is, are you trying to build a product that is going to be hot today and 2 years later on nobody remembers it, or you're trying to build something that is going to be around 10 years, 12 years from now?
Larry, the best social features from Real Money?
It's interesting where Dion was talking about the group bonus experience. We worked on a group game of that nature, and after really watching it, dissecting it, seeing the different games in that space, we love the idea that everybody gets into this and gets excited and gets together and wins together. It totally wrecked the math of the group experience. And so we actually went away from simultaneous group bonus experiences to group experiences where you're all playing in a group, you're on the big bank of machines, but each player gets engaged in the big bonus individually. What the effect that has is that everybody on the bank very often is watching somebody go through the winning process, and then they're going to be next. By grouping everybody to do it all at once, if it's a 5-person bank, it's now 5 times as long on average between events. And so we actually have a group game, Jeopardy game coming out with IGT right now in this time space that we have shifted the group. Social will give us probably ways to hit both sides of it because we can dynamically work with the audience and don't have 5 physical people in a spot.
So I think can I get you onto another topic before, and you can go back?
I'm just going to say that social casino is the biggest oxymoron in our industry that's ever existed, right. And that the net value of social is negative. Social is if you think of playing a social casino, unchecking share with friends, inviting my friends, spamming my timelines, spamming my news feeds, asking for gifts to play the game, the net value of social is negative. We've done, as an industry, a terrible job of that. And I think inherently casino games largely are individual personal experiences, and we're trying to leverage Facebook's viral channels to add players, and all we've done is pull the player farther from the experience, take the exciting moments, these great peaks that they have, and we're injecting our desire with them to share those, even though they're not looking for that opportunity to share. All we're doing is social is bad for us.
So is it the way that we've implemented like these shallow social experiences?
Well, I'm gonna, when I talk to Facebook, I tell them they haven't given me the tools I need, and I have to implement the tools the way my competitors do because they're getting an advantage of getting the incredibly rare organic sign up through these tools. So I have to do it, even though my players by and large hate it, okay. Right? So we're in this rock and a hard place where we have to take advantage of some of these features, even though we're not doing a good job of implementing them. Now, I think that there is a lot of game designers and a lot of people who are still optimistic about social, and they're going to find some ways to make it a little more engaging. But in the vast majority of instances, stop trying to make your game social. Just try to make your game fun. Try to make your game engaging. Try to build the infatuation and the love affair with your player, and they'll reward you for it. And if they want to tell their friends about it, they've got plenty of opportunities and channels to do that. You don't have to spam them.
And I think this is going to evolve. I mean, we are at Social Casino 1.0 right now. And it's a matter of the brilliant people that we all work with to try and put it together different ways. And I think if you come back to Casual Connect in 5 years, you're going to see all kinds of different social stuff woven into the casinos.
So obviously one of the most glaring differences between real money and social is regulation. So in the world of social, all of you are now free to explore to your heart's content. So in terms of modifying, manipulating, playing around with the random number generator aspect of this, for first-time users, how important, and Monty, let's start with you, how important is it from a data perspective to actually ensure that a user has a great first experience, and how do you all feel about kind of being able to play around with or manipulate the games in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do curate the first player experience. We know that we've got maybe 30 or 40 spins before this player is going to lose interest and move on to something else, and so we want to show them the cool features of the game. We want to show them a bonus game. We want to show them what it's like to get a big win opportunity. We want to give them that experience, and we know that if we rely strictly on random, we're going to have a hard time with that. So we do curate, and I think almost everybody in the social space, most of them deny it, but almost everybody curates that first experience. Jeff Hyman had a great presentation that he did last year, which was, they rely on their fresh deck poker to have a completely random game, and they found that 66% of players lose their first 3 games of poker. And if they take as a cohort, if you lost your first 3 games of Texas Hold'em and they followed you through your lifespan, they found that those players spent less, they engaged less, they did everything less than a player who won one of his first 3 hands. And they didn't change it, but if they had made players win one of their first 3 hands to see what it's like to win a game of Texas Hold'em, their love affair. Remember, this is an entertainment product. We're trying to entertain people, and we can't lose sight that this is about players having a great time, and experiencing the great parts of your game is a good way to do that.
Everybody else agree with that?
To me, I think it's one of the biggest opportunities. It's something that I've always wanted to done as a casino game designer and never been able to do, is that you spend all this time trying to build in all these hooks and make these games as exciting as possible, as mathematically deep as possible, and then players will put in $5, spin twice, cash out, and walk away. So I think what this does is it gives an opportunity to say, hey, let them open up this game, fire it up, play it, and see what's actually really cool about the game, and see what's compelling about the game, and give them an opportunity to experience that without losing them after a couple spins, or brutalizing them for a half hour. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's almost, to me, it'd be stupid not to.
Okay. Last question before we go to the audience questions. Do I have? Okay. So in understanding our drop-off rates, and in understanding that typically a lot of social casinos have locked slot machines, and you have to unlock them, and yet we still typically have 60% drop-off in the first day. How do you feel about spending so much time designing a slot machine, and yet so few players actually ever get to experience that? And how do you think you can overcome that?
I think the 60% drop-off, and whatever that number is going to be a big number, regardless of whether they're locked games or open games. Those 60% are going to not stick, and so you have to design the games for the players that stay. In some formats, the locked progression works great. There are very successful, totally unlocked casinos. It's really, as he was saying, you have to, craft around the games to build the experience.
My creative team hates it. They hate the fact that not everybody's going to experience this amazing product they built, and it's really frustrating to them. Now, the interesting thing is that we launch a new game. If we just put it at the end, 85% of our players would never be able to play it. 85% of our active players wouldn't be able to play that game. Now, 99% of our monetizers will be able to play that game, which is what I tell my creative team all the time, is that that's what's engaging those players to spend more money. But we do a great launch event. So when we launch a new game, we get the entire community engaged. We let every player play it for a couple of weeks, and then we introduce it, in its final resting place. And we hope that it's aspirational to people who like the game and want to get there. But we recognize it's frustrating to players. But it's kind of the certainly, it's the game we built, and most of us in the space are using the same kind of progression system to unlock new games. But there is some consolation that the vast majority of monetizers still get to engage with it.
Fair enough. I think we are very much out of time.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them now. Sure.
Hi, just one question. What compels a user to pull a slot machine lever?
You're talking about in a casino, the lever
Social or
versus the
otherwise,
buttons?
either it's pushing the button or pulling the lever. What compels them to want to push the button or pull the lever?
The easiest answer to that is you pull the lever to play the game, or you stare at a non-moving screen. So that's kind of easy.
It's intermittent rewards, right? I mean, that's what ultimately is we find that we, as a species, if you push this button, I'm going to give you a prize 100% of the time. You push this button, you're never going to get a prize, or you push this button and sometimes you're going to get a prize. Sometimes wins incredibly over any of the others. You know, sometimes get a prize is way more compelling than every time get a prize, and that's every game you play. I don't care what game it is. You're playing a slot machine. You think it's World of Warcraft? It's not. You're killing a monster, hoping that the thing that you drop is the thing you want, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. It's every game that's got that infatuation and that engagement is a slot machine.
Right. And for more background on that, it's a principle called partial reinforcement, a psychological principle, and Google will tell you all about it.
Another question?
You mentioned progression and player, progression, leveling, things like that, but you didn't go into as much of that versus the design itself. Could you give us a little more best practice or cool learnings about, that kind of metagaming or that, system over time?
Well, for us, that's the secret sauce. I mean, we spend an unbelievable amount of time trying to segmenting our group and finding what engages them. And so we spend it, it's about how fast you level, how much content you consume, the rate at which you consume it. There's no secret sauce. And unfortunately, I can't say, oh, you should use this formula for progression. It's really about the content you have, the rate at which players can consume it, and the rate at which you can continue to put it in front of the players. But, levels are free. Make lots of levels. Make it fast.
And the answer, actually, to build on what he was saying also is, I don't think there is really one right answer either. I mean, Double Down Casino, which is probably not the largest, if one of the largest, if not the largest casino, most successful in significant high ARPDAU, they have no locked stuff. You can go there and you play every single game. You can play from day one, and that seems to work as well. And they are one of the largest. So again, I don't think there is one right answer. You kind of have to find your own correct target audience, and then you have to craft the experience for that target audience and make it work.
Next question.
Hi. So you talked earlier about how you think that slots is inherently not social. I think that's a very interesting concept. And you mentioned that you're constantly talking to Facebook about the things that you would like to see and they're not doing. So can you elaborate a bit about how you think you can make slots more social? What would you like to see? What is missing?
I'll clue you into my last night argument with Facebook 4 beers into it. And what I want is I don't care about your social graph. I don't care about the people you went to college with. I don't care about the people that you went to high school with or that you had your photography with. I don't want access to your social graph. I want to build new relationships between people who have the same level of passion for my game that you do. You're level 14, you like Bet the Farm, you play it every day. I want to introduce you to somebody that loves Bet the Farm just as much as you do, that will reinforce your behavior, and you'll reinforce their behavior, and you'll carry it through your entire experience with our game. I want Facebook to allow me to have transitory friends, people I meet and can engage with that should get all my feeds and all my shares about the game because it's interesting to them. And as soon as you uninstall the game, those friendships are gone forever, right? That's what I want, and that's what I've been asking for a long time. And if I can do that, I'll build a new social graph that's based on my game. Let me do that.
At 5 beers, they came to blows.
Actually, real world casinos also work the same way. Actually, believe it or not, in fact, even in the real world casinos, the reason many of the successful products. Hello? Yeah. The reason many of the successful products are banked together is because of that purposes. That people who play these games, they get into these groups where you start playing the machine, and if you don't know, you'll just kind of pretend to the person you don't know, and you'll find somebody lean over and say, oh, this is what you do in this game. or I come here every day to play. It's those short-term communities or short-term interest groups who are, they like that particular game, this is what they are playing, and then afterwards they go and play their own machine.
Cool. One more question?
I'm interested in knowing what kind of variables you experiment with or test to improve engagement, what metrics you use to measure engagement, whether it be related to retention or monetization. And then kind of tangential, but if you've ever worked with the multi-arm bandit problem in order to do testing and optimization.
Yeah, so we look at every metric. I mean, we are obsessed with the data, as Dave said, in a very negative way, ultimately. I have a terribly abusive relationship with my analytics and business intelligence group. So, but as far as engagement goes, we look at the distribution of play, and we find if we launch a new game right now, we don't create new play, we distribute play, right? Maybe this was a game that you played game A and now you play game B, but you don't play any more, you don't spend more, you don't buy more. The reason we produce new games is largely because I have a social contract with you as a player that I'm gonna continue to invest in this product because I want you to be around for years. We've retained an unbelievable amount of our players. We just had our 2-year anniversary on Facebook, and we've retained an unbelievable amount of those first cohorts, right, because of that social contract. So I don't look at the engagement the same way that maybe our peers do with Dow-Mal ratios or D1 or D7 or D14. It's really about focusing more heavily on the people who spend money, the people who consume content at a higher level. But I think that it's easy to get lost in the weeds there and define success. If your players hate the product but they're coming back, that's not a success. That's just a engaging failure. So you just gotta be careful with that.
So what variables do you tweak and experiment with in order to kind of get that?
So in the games themselves, I mentioned the 4 that matter to me, and that's the payout ratio, how much of the dollar does the player get back with every spin, the hit frequency, how often do you win anything at all. Then I look at the percentage, the volatility, how much, I look at that largely by how much of the payout is invested in the bonus game, right? So if you have a free spin bonus or a pick bonus or whatever your bonus game is, if you invest 20% or 10% of the payout in that, it's going to be a very low volatile game. But if you invest 40% in that, it's going to have tons of volatility because players are getting all their chips back whenever they hit that. And then, but I don't do that to try to manipulate engagement on the game. I try to do that to create a broad portfolio of games and players will find the one that they like, right? If you go to any of our fan groups, you'll find, I love this game, all the other games suck. It's because I found the right mix of those variables that the player likes. But there's no right answer. The only right answer is to not do it badly, right? To not understand the math of a game, to not invest in the engagement of the game. That's the only answer, is to not do it badly, to not do it at all.
Okay, we're out of time. I'd like to thank Dave and everyone on the panel for a great panel. Thank you very much. Thank you.